Hello guys, I just wanted to do a little intro before the intro to the video, just to let you guys know that there is a volume warning for this video. There are parts of this where I do yell, albeit not too much, but I just wanted to put that as a warning ahead of time. Also, I do take time to talk about some politics happening in my own country, which I live in the US, as well as in other countries. And although I don't feel like this is something that could be totally ignored by anyone, I will put in a timestamp for those who just at the moment can't handle it. However, I do want you to keep in mind that these events truly are happening, and it's horrible that they're happening. And I appreciate if you guys take the time to not only educate yourselves, as I am providing resources to the stuff I am talking about in the description of this video, but also to take the time and speak out yourselves. Thank you. And now, here's the video. 2023. 2023 was a year where many things happened. Some good, some bad, some very bad. But boy, oh howdy, did this year test me! And not just me, but for everyone I know it seems, and it sucks. This year has been horrible, and I hate that because some good stuff also happened to me this year, and the good stuff was really good. It was great. It just happened to happen in the middle of a really crappy year. It seems as if Apollo was personally cursing us by throwing the red dodgeball onto this planet and going, "Fuck at you!" Well, in that case, let's talk about it. The good, the bad, and my plans as we head on into 2024. But first, the art for today's video. As you may know by now, as I posted it before uploading this video, I made a short film for my animation class. The film is called Buttercup, a short story of a girl with allergies who summons an eldritch horror to be her new pet dog. I was going for an early 2000s Cartoon Network cartoons-esque pilot film, as this was an idea I originally scrapped for my senior film, so when I found out what our final was going to be in my animation class, I decided to dig this bad boy back up and went a little overboard on it. It's an intentionally, childishly edgy story, as I grew up on cartoons like Courage the Cowardly Dog and The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and was inspired by those pieces of media that I got into more recently, such as Malevolent and Bloodborne. Kids, never make a 3-minute animation in 3 weeks, this thing fucking killed me. So I hope you enjoy watching me work on a bit of it. It's been a really long time since I did a speed paint of my animation work, and my process has changed a lot since then. However, before we go into my own year, I want to talk about some of the stuff that has happened in the rest of the world. This year has been a scary time for a lot of people. Tons of anti-trans laws have caused some of my friends to have to flee their home states to escape discrimination, as well as the rise of fascism in the United States. It's scary to see this just before the election year, and makes me concerned for the rest of the US. Although I live in a relatively blue area and don't face regular harassment for being an openly queer person, not everyone gets to share that privilege with me, and with the current state of the political climate, I worry for how long it's going to last. Trans rights are human rights, and I refuse to hear any argument against that statement. The overturn of Roe v. Wade has led to an increase of anti-abortion laws and has led to the dismantling of reproductive rights in America. Abortion is healthcare, and the government must reinstate it. People should not be forced to give birth to a baby they don't want, or one that could possibly kill both the child and the parent. It's not rocket science, it's common sense. But that's not the only issue that's happening right now in the world, and I can't go forward with this video in good conscience without spending time talking about what is happening in Gaza. What Israel is doing to Palestinians in Gaza is an ethnic cleansing. It is a genocide, and there's nothing else to call it when a whole population of people is under the mercy of one government, and that government is carpet bombing them. And every country that has not spoken out against this atrocity and has helped continuing this genocide should be ashamed of themselves. The propaganda that is coming to justify what has been 20,000 deaths at the time of me recording this is unacceptable. The death of nearly 8,000 children is unacceptable, and there's not justification for it, and nothing could justify that. And the millions of people now being forcibly evicted from their land do not deserve this. Gaza has been considered the world's biggest open-air prison for years, which is already just horrible enough, and it should not have been turned into a mass grave as well. The cruelty is the point, and it is disgusting that the US voted against stopping this. Everyone who has direct influence to stop this from happening should have stopped this from happening, and they should be revolted with themselves for allowing this to continue. We say never again to remind ourselves of the horrors of what Nazis did to Jews in World War II, and how we must never let events like this happen again. but it should never be an excuse for Zionists to do that to another group of people, especially of the people whose land you are occupying. This issue did not start on October 7th and has been going on for over 70 years. I hate that this is happening so much. And I know I'm going to have people coming into my comments to be trolls over this, but being anti-Zionist is not the same thing as being anti-Semitic. It's as stupid as saying if you don't like Chick-fil-A, it's only because you hate Christians. And that sounds really stupid. I had my own family member accuse me of that once, without listening to my point about the let's kill the gays laws that they were funding in other countries because, you know, I am anti-religious apparently. I don't like anti-Semitism, and I hate bigots, and Nazis can go fuck right off to hell for all I care. But what is happening in Palestine is not a Muslim versus Jew thing that the media is portraying it as. An occupying power is trying to take more from an already marginalized population. There are Palestinians in multiple different faiths, as there are Israelis of multiple different faiths. And this is not a fight between religions. This is not a fight against Jews. And this is not anti-Semitic for saying that this is a genocide. I will not be taking any anti-Semitic or Islamophobic talk in my comments, anything racist, anything in general trying to justify what Israel is doing. I will block you and I will delete your comment. Only time I'm saying it, I am not going to humor you. The whole situation is beyond horrifying, and it sucks because I don't know what to do. I try to spread what I can on other social media sites, but I still see posts from Palestinians like Basan and Montaz who are constantly updating about the situation from Gaza, and it feels powerless. My biggest hope for this video, at least, is maybe that people who weren't aware of what is exactly happening might go do more research into the history of the occupation and speak up. Supplies are not reaching where they are needed in Gaza, and there are videos everywhere of Palestinians who are showing the bodies of now dead family members, some of them in pieces. And the fact that they have to go and do that, and have to speak in English, and have to have children hold their own press conferences asking not to be killed just to get people to care, is horrifying. I don't know how long this is going to go on, but I want Palestine to be free, I want them to have their land back, and I want aid to reach Gaza, and I want this genocide to end. This should not be happening. And at the same time, though, we can't allow ourselves to fall into a hole of despair and give up. There are people still alive, and Israeli propaganda is not working. Most of the world wants this genocide to end. And people will not forget this, and the world won't let those responsible for this genocide forget what they have done. It's not just in Palestine that there are genocides currently happening, but also in other countries such as Sudan, Tigray, and the Congo. The Congo has millions who are displaced and work as literal slaves just so a new iPhone could come out everywhere and you could buy vapes at the gas station. There are so many more horrible things happening, and although the spotlight is currently on Palestine, I don't want us to ignore what else is happening in these other countries either. For that, I'm going to be linking some resources down in the description along with links to the articles that I have shared here in this video, as it is important to understand the history of the 1948 Nakba and how it's continued into today's genocide. I also suggest checking out decolonizepalestine.com, a site that talks about the Palestine occupation and how Israel uses methods such as pinkwashing to justify its actions. I will also be linking below resources where you can educate yourself on what is happening in Palestine, Congo, Sudan, and Tigray. Please consider checking them out and giving support. I do not regret misleading people with the title and thumbnail just to talk about these issues along with what the content of today's video is going to be, but they have to be said. The people in Gaza deserve better, and if what I have to say helps even a little bit, then it's worth it. It's my platform, and if it even helps a little bit, then I don't care for the backlash that could come out of calling out what is happening for what it is. It's a genocide, and it needs to stop. So now, that being said, why don't we go talking about my year, as I know that you guys were curious of what has happened. And I do have some cool stories, and some cool stuff did come out for me personally this year, but I had to say all of that before we got into it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to make this video. Now, I wasn't in the best place mentally at the end of last year, and I'm not going to go into the details why, but it led to me dropping out of my dream college and transferring to a more closer university to where I currently live. Last fall, I was at SCAD for their animation program, and I had a great time while I was there, but things just ended up happening, and I decided to make the difficult decision to move back home, closer to where I currently live, which is where I've always been living. It's one that I'm currently happy that I made that decision, but I still feel sad that I had to make that decision. I really liked Savannah and I liked going to SCAD, but the money wasn't there. And I mention this because this sets the scene for January. My winter break was going to be ending soon. The SCAD winter break ends sooner than the winter break from where I currently go to university at, and I still had stuff at my dorm, so I convinced my best friend to take a road trip with me, and we made a whole fun trip of it. We did have a lot of much needed fun. I took him to a dessert bar there that I'm still mourning the fact that it's too far away to go to again from where I live, and I showed him some places I enjoyed while living in Savannah, but I'm still mourning the loss of the dessert bar. And then we drove back, stopping at my dad's place on the way home, and it was nice to introduce my dad and my stepmom to my best friend. They're very friendly, extroverted people, so it was a lot of fun. And I hope someday that we both could go back again, because there's still some places I want to show him from my childhood, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. Ironically, the day I officially closed my lease on the dorm was the day I got accepted to the school I transferred to, and the place I currently go to school at. So when I got home, I was able to register for classes, but only a couple of those classes were ones I actually needed to fill for my degree. The rest were filler. I registered so late that only 2 of my classes actually filled those requirements, and the 3 other ones did not. They were just credit requirements, which I honestly didn't need, as what I needed to take as a required class would have filled those in, but I also needed to be able to take a full schedule of classes. Now, don't get me wrong though, I did enjoy the classes I picked. I went out of my way and decided if I was going to take classes not related to my degree, I'll at least take classes that'll mean something, and so I picked ones that I felt would help me write for stuff in Harmony better. By the way, go check out In Harmony on Tapas. I'm working so hard on it! One was a film history class, one was a critical sexuality class, and the last was an entrepreneur class. Overall, I enjoyed the first semester's classes. I was taking French for a language requirement, and it helped that I've been slowly teaching myself French for a year prior to taking it. And one of the perks of having a French-Canadian girlfriend. Love you, hun! And another art history course that was nice, and my film class was really good, and it ended up being my favorite class actually. I had so much fun watching old movies. My critical sexuality class was great, and I ended up writing a 14-page paper about aromantic and asexual representation in audio dramas. I got to combine 2 of my favorite things into one, and it ended up being twice the length, the final maximum page length that they required for the final paper. Yeah, the final one was supposed to be 7 pages. I ended up writing 14, not including citations. Actually, sorry, including citations. That was with the citations. There was very little research prior to what I was writing about, and I got permission from my professor to reach out to some podcasters for questions, and most of the people I tried to get into contact with responded. So shout out to Alex Kingsley of Strong Branch Productions, Harlan Guthrie of Malevolent, John Ware of the Silt Verses, and Casper Oliver of Jarabook. You guys really helped me out with that final paper. My entrepreneur class, while interesting, just ended up making me hate capitalism more. LOL. I did not like capitalism before, and this just kind of reinstated my opinions about capitalism. But that semester was also not held up just by schoolwork, but rather some interesting events. Besides my impromptu road trip to Georgia with my best friend, my job also had some changes. Unfortunately, just kind of not of the happy kind. In May, I got a text from my manager while it was ironically getting ready for work the next day. I work with dogs, and it honestly was the best job I ever worked. Although it can be demanding because it is dog daycare, it's still far better than retail. That being said, sometimes surprises come up, and this year's work-related surprise was when my manager gave me a text to inform me that I didn't have to come into work the next day. A car drove through the building. I missed the phone call, so I had to call him again and ask what had actually happened. The incident was an accident and nobody got hurt, so I'm not going to talk too much about the people. Actually, I'm not going to talk at all about the people who did the thing. But 2 dogs did get out. One was found the next day, and the other one ended up making her way back to my job a couple days later. We don't know where she went, as nobody saw her since she had ran off. But we kind of assumed that maybe she tried going home, couldn't figure out how to get home, so she just found her way back to our job. She's fine though, she's a good girl. And the mess behind was a lot, but at this point of time with me recording it, our lobby is completely fixed, and the only thing we have left is a few tire tracks to remind us about the time that we had a car drive through right through the building. As you guys probably have listened, I also do a podcast recommendation series on YouTube, where some people like to look up recommendations that I give them, and I talk about them for however long I feel like it. Well, I had the opportunity last year to do some nature work for Starbridge Productions podcast Tales from the Radiator, and it was a great learning experience for me as an amateur voice actor or narrator, and I hope to do more stuff like it in the future. I had so much fun working with Alex on the episode I did, and you should absolutely give Tales of the Radiator a listen for some good, bizarre stories. And that was my spring/early winter. My life was mostly taken up by school, some private family stuff that I won't be including in my YouTube videos, and work, but summer came and went as a pretty uneventful affair, save for one fun thing I got to knock off the bucket list, and another thing that was probably the highlight of my year. Back in June, I went to my first ever Pride Parade. I had been to smaller events before, but I was never able to go to a Pride Parade. I don't like going to things like that on my own, and I was invited by my friends to go. It was on a day I worked, but I managed to make my way from my job and take the long drive to where it was and partake in what was happening. I had so much fun and I wanted to go again. I bought myself a little crab. Her name is Crab Hunter. I've talked about her a lot in my podcast series. She sits on my desk and she watches me draw and talk about podcasts all the time. Isn't that right, ma'am? But the best thing that had happened during the summer happened in mid-July, which was when I finally got to see Judy, my girlfriend, in person for the first time. They came down from Canada to visit with their family, and we spent a couple of days in DC. And I had so much fun through the trip. We hung out and watched videos, explored around DC, and had a great time. I was so happy to finally see my girlfriend. It was so good. It was almost perfect. Almost. Because in 2023's personal vendetta against me, it decided to add one blight onto a perfect trip. And although we made the best of it, this certainly was... So, months before the trip, we were looking at hotels together. And the one we decided to stay at was the one that I stayed at before. I have stayed at this for a convention before. It was fine. It was affordable. It was a nice hotel for the low price. It was close to the city. And we figured that we wouldn't be spending so much time in the hotel that it didn't really matter if it wasn't like the most fanciest hotel in the world. And the week we were planning to meet, there was a heat wave. So the first day Judy and I met up, we met my mom and sister, I met their parents and brother, and everything was fine. But then the next morning we woke up and half the power in the hotel room was gone. No AC. And the only outlets and the lights that were working were in the bathroom. Judy's parents were much luckier and they had all their outlets working. The only thing that wasn't working was the AC. But it was very annoying having to rummage around in a low-lit room where the only light that worked was in the bathroom. But we decided to make the best of it and went out into DC, hoping that the power would be fixed when we got back. And it wasn't. Which led to a late night scrambling looking for a hotel for my girlfriend's family. It was our last night and the heat wasn't terrible at night, so we decided to stay in our hotel room ourselves. But my girlfriend's family needed a place with an AC in order to sleep, and we couldn't find anything. So we decided to go back to bed as all the nearby hotels in walking distance were either closed down or full. Other people there were also complaining, as me and my girlfriend both woke up in the middle of the night to someone screaming at the man at the front for the lack of AC. It was an outdoor hotel, so all of our rooms went straight outside. But at 4 in the morning, my girlfriend's mom knocked onto her door to tell us that her, my girlfriend's dad, and their brother found an available room in a different hotel and that they were going to spend the rest of the trip there. That's great, that's good. But then, and I fucking kid you not, it was as if the universe decided to spit on our faces at the exact moment because the power came on the moment she fucking said they found a hotel room and the AC kicked right into gear. I was flabbergasted with how horrible that timing was. Talk about the worst fucking timing. But besides that mishap, it was a great trip and the highlight of my summer. Shortly afterwards was the Great Boat Haul of 2023, which you can hear all about in my Tales of a Bone Hunter video if you want to know about my biggest haul of animal bones I have ever found. And after that was the fall semester at my school. I actually was taking stuff specifically for my major this year, and I really liked my classes. My visual comp class let me do some weird stuff for my photography assignments, and I did a lot of creepy and macabre-like pieces for it. And my intro to animation class was a lot of fun, which is where most of the little tiny short videos that I've done are from and for. And even if it was a lot of work, I just had a ton of time just animating, whatever. I also got to make a short film for the assignment, even if I way overshot the requirements. The original assignment was 10 to 30 seconds, and I made my final over 3 minutes long! will not be doing that again. At least until I get to my senior film. Of course, though, however, 2023 had to do one more thing to test me before it stopped burying its horrible teeth. My car had a minor problem that I took it in to get looked at. It could still drive. It was a minor problem. So I went to go get it taken because the engine light was turning on. And you always want to get that looked at if you're new to cars. My regular guys told me to take it to a dealership because they were not sure what the problem was, so I did. Which proceeded to the most stressful month of this year, and I had to pay the rest of my tuition out of pocket, and for a solid month, my car was at the dealership. I was getting very little communication about what was happening in my car, very little updates, and absolutely no support from the people at the dealership. There was a lot of people online who were very helpful and commissioned me to help pay for my transportation costs, which I really appreciate, but I was under so much fucking stress through the whole month of October. Then, exactly 1 month after I dropped the car off, they were finally able to tell me what was wrong with it, and they fixed the problem the exact same fucking day. It took them a whole goddamn month to actually get around to looking at my car. And then 2 weeks later, I get a letter saying my car was recalled for the same problem it was having, and now I have to take it back in again when they have the parts. And I know they get to fix it for free this time around, which is great. It's nice. It's perfect. But I just want the car stress to be over. I want 2023 to let me off of its ride. Get me off of 2023's horrible, horrible ride. I want off of it. I want off this roller coaster. And that has been my year. That was my year. At least by the point of me doing this video. And it's been a ride. And with a lot that's happened, at least gives me an idea creatively what I want to do for next year. So we're going to talk about that before this video officially closes out. So last year a short of mine blew up out of the blue. It was the Hell's Coming With Me video that's titled Point of View, a man blows up God in a coal mine. You know, this one. I am the righteous hand of God, and I am the... I didn't know what the title at the time, and people hated the title I did go with, as if any of them actually watched the video and saw it wasn't about Christianity, just that the man in the video was religious. If God was a giant eyeball monster, then maybe that would convince me to go back to Christianity. But only maybe. I ended up disabling comments on it because of the wave of both transphobic and racist comments I was getting about the video, but it made my following jump up from just above 2,000 subs to almost 12,000 subs. I was surprised, but it started making me think more seriously about my YouTube and what I wanted to do with it. I already had a series on TikTok where I recommended podcasts, but they were short 3-minute things, and for some shows, I realized I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say about the show, so I decided to reformat the series for YouTube, making my first attempt with my malevolent recommendation at the end of the last year. After making these videos for a year, I say the reception has been bizarre. They're not my most popular videos, but I enjoy making them, and spending time talking about exactly why I like the shows I'm recommending, and my plan on continuing them into 2024 and beyond has been fun. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope that eventually I'll get to a point where I'll run out of shows that I already listen to recommend, so that way I can make all the art for the videos specifically focused on the shows themselves, and I can release videos more slowly and on a regular schedule instead of just a bunch on and off at once. I find it easier to be inspired to make an art piece for a show I'm listening to while I'm actively listening to it rather than not listening to it. But yeah, it's just been weird and a cool way to be known by other podcasters as that art person who talks about podcasts. I don't know if Daryl Recommends Podcasts would count as a podcast since this is a video series and I include visuals, but it's a title I'm happy with. And the fact that other podcasters from the shows I like now know me, and some are following me on social media, is really weird to me, but I'm happy about it. I may not have plans to make an actual podcast myself, but I like my own little role in this community. When thinking about my YouTube channel, I also decided that I want to do more video essay stuff, either story times or talking about stuff I'm passionate about. I didn't want to be a let's talk about this discourse YouTuber, but I had some stories and thoughts that I thought would make good videos. Then procrastinated through the year to make my first one. Sorry about that. I just had a lot on my mind. Next year though, I want to expand on that a little more. I have ideas for Eclipse Paint Studio tool tutorials, specifically as a way to show people how I use certain tools in my art, as well as the short horror stories that I've been living in the back of my mind that I want to turn into narrative videos. I'm thinking for the tutorial videos, I could also split them up and make tips as shorts, but I haven't decided on that yet. I also want to do more OC animations. I have an iPad. I can easily get Procreate Dreams. And those are just a few things I want to try for next year, so just let me know what you think. I am also, obviously, going to work hard on Not Quite Somewhere Else and In Harmony. The Shepherd of Oblivion will be taking a hiatus while I work on improving the story. I don't have as much stuff planned out for it as I do with Not Quite Somewhere Else and In Harmony. I mean, I have almost every update for Not Quite Somewhere Else planned until the very end of the comic. I don't think you guys realize it, but we're like about halfway through the story. Maybe a little more than that. I want the Shepherd of Oblivion to have the level of care as In Harmony and Not Quite Somewhere Else, but regularly updating 3 webcomics is too much. I've made a channel updating 2 regularly for a year, so I know I can manage 2. So the Shepherd of Oblivion will be going on the back burner, at least until I could make like a good story bible for it like I did with In Harmony. And that just about wraps it up. Hopefully 2024 will be a kinder year for all of us, and if you like this video, consider subscribing. You can find my other work in the links in the description. I have a Ko-fi open if you wish to consider donating to my channel. My channel is currently not monetized, so I do this not only for free, but without the ads and sponsorships hindering your viewing experience. If you like what I do, consider buying me a coffee. It helps keep the lights on. Thanks for watching, and have a happy new year, everyone.